Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
A whistleblower has accused White House officials of trying to cover up details of a phone call between Donald Trump and Ukraine's president. During the call, Mr. Trump is said to have pushed Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate the Democrat Joe Biden, who hopes to run against him in the 2020 presidential election. The accusations come after the Democrats launched an impeachment inquiry, the process by which an American president can be removed from office. Here's our North America editor, John Sokol.
Joseph Maguire is a man who's spent his career living in the shadows. Not anymore. The evidence that the acting director of national intelligence is giving today could have a critical bearing on the future of Donald Trump's presidency, following that contested call with the Ukrainian leader. Donald Trump, who met Volodymyr Zelensky at the UN yesterday, insists that the call was perfect, even though he blatantly asks the Ukrainian leader to investigate his main Democratic political rival, Joe Biden. But today a whistleblower's letter was made public, and its allegations are damning. He says, after an initial exchange of pleasantries, the president used the remainder of the call to advance his personal interests. Namely, he sought to pressure the Ukrainian leader to take actions to help the president's 2020 re-election bid. And he goes on. White House officials told me they were directed by White House lawyers to remove the electronic transcript from the computer system in which such transcripts are typically stored for coordination, finalisation and distribution to cabinet-level officials. According to White House officials I spoke with, this wasn't the first time under this administration that a presidential transcript was placed into this code word-level system solely for the purpose of protecting politically sensitive, rather than national security sensitive information. And so to the evidence.
Would you agree that the whistleblower complaint alleges serious wrongdoing by the President of the United States?
The first question seemed to cause Mr. Guire discomfort.
The whistleblower complaint involved the allegation of that. It is not for me and the intelligence community to decide how the President conducts his foreign policy.
The White House has sought to undermine the credibility of the whistleblower. The intelligence chief, though, was noticeably not going there.
I think the whistleblower did the right thing. I think he followed the law every step of the way.
The complaint states that the White House tried to lock down all records of the call.
And Democrats are seizing on the whistleblower's letter.
This is a cover-up. This is a cover-up.
Donald Trump's anger and perhaps anxiety over this is evident. This morning tweeting, the Democrats are trying to destroy the Republican Party and all that it stands for. Stick together, play their game and fight hard, Republicans. Our country is at stake. At a news conference last night, Donald Trump was unusually downbeat, almost morose. And now it's clear why. The allegations in the letter could not be more serious.
Well, Donald Trump landed at Andrews Air Force Base a few minutes ago and told reporters waiting there that what the Democrats are doing is a disgrace. The White House has put out a statement saying that nothing has changed with the release of the complaint, which is nothing more than a collection of third-hand accounts of events and cobbled together press clippings. But the complaint contains a very specific allegation that the transcript of the call was taken off the normal computer server. And Democrats are going to keep asking the question, is that true? Or is it not? Because if it is true, then this impeachment inquiry has just got a whole lot more serious for Donald Trump.
John Sokol in Washington, thank you.
Seeking to interfere in the 2020 election and, what's more, attempting to cover it up. Those are the allegations tonight facing President Donald Trump. Democrats say they're gathering even more ammunition in their impeachment inquiry against him, with the public release of the whistleblower's complaint at the center of their investigation. Our Washington correspondent Siobhan Kennedy joins us live from Washington. Siobhan.
Well, John, today things got a whole lot worse for President Donald Trump. Remember, he's accused of abusing his position as president in that phone call with President Zelensky of Ukraine to further his own political status, his political gain in next year's election. Well, yesterday we had a summary of that conversation, which Donald Trump said proved he'd done no wrong. It was a perfect phone call, he said. Well, today came the explosive revelations from the full whistleblower complaint that really have turned up the dial on this issue here. The two most serious being that White House officials sought to bury, to lock down in the whistleblower's words, the conversation, the details of that phone call, especially the word-to-word transcript that was then produced, and further, that transcript was removed from the normal computer system and was instead sequestered away, the whistleblower alleged, in a classified portion of another system that was used for especially sensitive material. Now, the whistleblower admitted that he was not privy, he didn't have direct access to that events described. It's hearsay that he was told by White House officials. The New York Times, in the last few minutes, have described him as a CIA officer who worked at the White House at one point. Nevertheless, the Democrats have seized upon these latest revelations as evidence of a cover-up inside the White House. President Trump, though, in an extraordinary response, described the whistleblower as close to a spy and said that in the old days, spies were dealt with differently. Now, either way, if the Democrats thought they had a watertight case yesterday, today they believe it's a slam dunk. A secret explosive whistleblower's complaint against President Donald Trump. Secret no more.
We were presented with the most graphic evidence yet that the President of the United States has betrayed his oath of office. It forces us to confront the remedy the founders provided for such a flagrant abuse of office: impeachment.
For weeks, Congress has been asking Joseph Maguire, America's acting intelligence chief, to release the full document. Today, they got their wish. A complaint authored by an anonymous whistleblower unlike any other in U.S. history. I have received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election. It centers around a telephone conversation between these two men, Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky, here yesterday together at the UN in New York. In the call, Donald Trump asked President Zelensky for a favor and allegedly sought to persuade him to open an investigation into his political rival, Joe Biden. And then the whistleblower says the president used the remainder of the call to advance his personal interests. Namely, he sought to pressure the Ukrainian leader to take actions to help the president's 2020 re-election bid. And then a bombshell revealed publicly for the first time. I learned from multiple U.S. officials that senior White House officials had intervened to lock down all records of the phone call, especially the official word-for-word transcript of the call that was produced. That transcript, the whistleblower claimed, was then placed into a separate electronic system used to store especially sensitive information.
That gave the whistleblower reason to believe that they, the White House, understood the gravity of what transpired in that call. This is a cover-up. This is a cover-up.
But many Republicans feel very differently.
They're talking about impeaching a sitting president that they have no crime for. The leader of the free world. It goes beyond politics. This affects every American, not just every American, it affects the world.
But Republicans aren't unanimously behind their president.
I did read the transcript. It remains troubling in the extreme. It's deeply troubling.
President talking about the race for 2020.
In his complaint, the whistleblower refers to this moment when President Trump, in an ABC News interview, admitted he'd be open to receiving dirt on his political opponents.
If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
We now know he appeared to seek it. We also know that on July the 18th, a week before the call, President Trump ordered nearly $400 million worth of aid to the Ukraine to be frozen. Then, on July the 24th, Special Counsel Mueller testified to Congress over his investigation into Russian interference, which the president claimed was a failed witch hunt to bring him down. That scandal dealt with the very next day, he called President Zelensky.
I am not partisan, and I am not political.
Today, Intelligence Chief Joseph Maguire admitted he could have disclosed the whistleblower's report to Congress, but held back because the allegations were subject to executive privilege.
A privilege that I do not have the authority to waive.
President Trump left New York today, arriving back in D.C. under more pressure than at any other point in his presidency. The Democrats now believing they are armed with enough evidence not only of abuse of power, but of a cover-up too.
My call was perfect. The president yesterday of Ukraine said there was no pressure put on him whatsoever, none whatsoever. And he said it loud and clear for the press. What these guys are doing, Democrats are doing to this country, is a disgrace, and it shouldn't be allowed.
Whatever the president says, as more details are revealed, the fury over his phone call with President Zelensky is mounting. So too are demands for Donald Trump to become only the third president in American history to be impeached.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting. Well, joining us now from Washington is Dina Bass, Republican strategist and former Deputy Chief of Staff to Housing Secretary Ben Carson, and former Breitbart spokesman who was a Republican but is now a Democrat, Kurt Bardella. Dina Bass, do you believe any of this, for a start?
Well, first I should say that I am not a Trump apologist. I am a conservative. I am a Republican. And I will say that I, like many reasonable people, clutch my pearls at some of the things that the president does and says. I will say on this matter, I believe that the Democrats are reaching too far. I feel like this is not about what happened on a call on July 25th. This is all about November 2020. And it really is about the election. They do not believe that they can beat the president based on their record and his. So I feel like they are, in the same as they did with the Russia investigation, they are trying to do anything to impeach him or to cast shadows on his great record. And this is the next step, the next phase in their plan.
You are shaking your head, Kurt Bardella.
Well, John, that's just purely nonsensical. First of all, every poll right now shows the president's underwater. His approval's underwater. He's losing to a number of the possible Democratic nominee candidates. The reason why it's taken so long for the House to even move forward with potentially impeaching the president is because they were worried that the politics were actually bad for them. Politically speaking, this may not be the best course for them for 2020. The reality is this has come out. A whistleblower has come forward. There is a report saying that the president tried to extort another foreign country into doing his dirty work. That's the bottom line. That's the most important thing right now that's at stake. The entire credibility of this country, the entire credibility of our election process, and allowing that to go unanswered and unchecked is absurd. And I'll tell you, as someone who worked for Republicans, who worked at the Oversight Committee during the Obama years, I can tell you they would never have let this thing go either.
Well, Dina Bass, I see you shaking your head.
No, I agree with him. I agree that I do not believe in selective outrage. And I think that if Republicans had this type of information on Democrats, they would certainly be like a dog without a bone, a dog on a bone, and they would do the same thing. But what I want to do as an American is look, we have the transcript. The president has been more forthcoming than I think he probably should have been in releasing his private conversations with a fellow head of state. So we have the transcript. We have firsthand knowledge of all the documents. We need to be able to dig into those things and get the truth rather than relying on, God bless you, Jon Snow, you're a respected journalist, but rather than relying on these small, short segments of people making comment about it, we should read it. And when I read the transcript, when I read it, I see that the president has not asked for any favor. I don't see the president asking for anything more.
He says, let me ask you to do a favor.
But I've now read the document myself.
That's what it says.
I mean, the fact is
a favor. He's not holding back funds if this favor is done. I feel like he definitely has made a point of mentioning the Biden issue, and which is an issue that we in America are completely forgetting, the fact that he's actually asking about illegal actions that could have taken place by our former vice president. But the idea that he's saying that we will withhold funds if this action doesn't take place, that is not, I do not read that in the transcript at all.
Well, I've read the transcript, and I must say there is a variance of opinion. But let me just come to you. I mean, Kurt Bardella, this is a situation in which he is accused of attempting to nail his opponent in an upcoming election. Maybe Dina Bass is right. That's not an offence. It's not dealing with anything current.
Well, I would say this. If Joe Biden isn't running for president, does Donald Trump bring his name up on a call with another head of state? Of course he doesn't. It is illegal in this country for a foreign country to provide any type of support to a political campaign. It's not allowed. It's against the law. What Trump is doing is asking another country to do his dirty work for him. And the chronology, if you look at it, the reality is, John, a couple days before that call, Trump has the aid to Ukraine cut off. After the call, all of a sudden, all of this becomes public. Now the aid is back on. Why do you think that is? It's common sense. What we do need, though, at the end of the day, is an investigation finding out who knew what when, what actually happened, who were the witnesses who saw this go down, who got instructed to take the aid away, who got instructed to give it back, what the entire sequence is. Let's get the facts. I agree with her on that. Let's get the facts. Something tells me the president doesn't want that to happen, though.
Dina Bass, what seems to be absolutely clear here is that he did ask for damaging material against a potential opponent. You're just saying, well, that doesn't matter, correct?
No, I do believe that it matters. I think that these things need to be exposed. We need to understand the fullness of the conversation. We have the transcript, but I think what happens now is that we look at the. But see, and that's the thing. I think one thing that we cannot dissect in this small conversation, we should have more conversations about it, the cover-up, this idea. And I worked in an agency, so this idea that career professionals would actually go to the extremes to cover up this information. Your audience may not understand it, but in America, we have career professionals who work work in these agencies independent of party affiliation. I was an appointee, so I was a political appointee, but we're talking about career professionals who have 10, 20, 30 years of service, who are not necessarily loyal to the president, Republican or Democrat. They are career professionals. So now we have this idea that there's a cover-up because career professionals are going to actually doctor documents that in advance of their release. That's ridiculous. There's nothing about that makes sense.
One word from you,
Let's just be clear about this. A career professional has come forward.
Can I ask you one key question? How much more valid does it make this document that it has been released by a CIA official within the White House who had served within the White House?
A CIA official.
That's exactly what I was just about to get to, John.
I've asked Kurt this question. Your answer, Kurt.
A career professional, a CIA officer has come forward and said this happened, and who has extensive experience in foreign policy, extensive experience in the relationship between Ukraine and the United States. The fact that it comes from that type of source tells you there's a there, and I think Congress is going to get to the end of it.
Right, Kurt Bardella, thank you very much indeed, and Dina Bass, thank you.
Dems thought there was there in the Russia investigation as well.
I'm sorry, we must leave it, but thank you very much indeed, both of you.
Now to the political crisis tightening its grip around the presidency of Donald Trump. Anyone with a long memory will remember the impeachment of President Nixon. It has long been said that it wasn't the crime, a break-in at the Watergate headquarters of the Democratic Party, that forced his resignation, but the cover-up of that break-in. Well, today, President Trump and, more crucially, members of his staff were accused of covering up evidence from a whistleblower who said President Trump allegedly asked for help in tampering with the U.S. election next year. If proved, it could lead to his impeachment by Congress.
This afternoon, Donald Trump arrived back at the White House. It is too early to say whether he will be evicted from the world's most famous residence, but his grip on the presidency tonight is certainly in jeopardy.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today...
As the acting director of national intelligence was sworn in to give evidence to Congress, dramatic new information has emerged that suggests that Trump was seeking to hide that attempt of his to acquire political dirt from the Ukrainians. Now the very phrase that drove Nixon from office is echoing again around the halls of Congress.
This is a cover-up. This is a cover-up.
For the Democrats driving this investigation, they believe they have not just the smoking gun, but the ammunition as well. All that they need for impeachment.
We were presented with the most graphic evidence yet that the President of the United States has betrayed his oath of office. It forces us to confront the remedy the founders provided for such a flagrant abuse of office, impeachment.
Republicans are deeply uncomfortable, but questioning the motives of Democrats and the reliability of the evidence.
You have not investigated the veracity or the truthfulness of this complaint.
Many Americans have seen this movie too many times, and they're tired of it.
But crucially, the integrity of the source was backed up by the acting director of National Intelligence.
You don't have any reason to accuse them of disloyalty to our country or suggest they're beholden to some other country, do you?
Sir, absolutely not. I believe that the whistleblower followed the steps every step of the way.
The whistleblower letter is rocket fuel for the impeachment process, an extraordinary glimpse into how the White House is doing business. This unnamed White House insider wrote, "In the course of my official duties, I have received information from multiple US government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 US election." When Trump and the Ukrainian president spoke by phone in July, the whistleblower reveals the notes were not treated in a routine manner. The transcript was loaded into a separate electronic system that is otherwise used to store and handle classified information of an especially sensitive nature. The president claims it was, in his words, perfect to ask the Ukrainian president to investigate Joe Biden's son during that July phone call. And his fury today was aimed at Democrats in Congress.
What these guys are doing, Democrats are doing to this country, is a disgrace, and it shouldn't be allowed. There should be a way of stopping it, maybe legally through the courts, but they're going to tie up our country.
Tonight, in a fresh twist, an audio recording has emerged in which the president tells US diplomats in New York that whoever passed on the information is not a patriot, but a spy.
Who's the person who gave the whistleblower the information? Because that's close to a spy. With spies and treason. We used to handle it a little differently than we do now.
The president's political survival may well depend on the loyalty of Republicans in the Senate. While a few are wavering,
it's deeply troubling.
But many others in the Republican Party regard this investigation as little more than ruthless political revenge by the Democrats.
Well, Robert, this story seems to be developing at incredible speed. Do we know, A, anything more about this whistleblower, and how confident are the Democrats that they have Trump cornered?
Well, look, the identity of this whistleblower is being fiercely protected currently, but nothing stays secret for long in this town, and there is already some reporting tonight that he or she is actually a CIA officer who is working or recently worked in the West Wing. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, is driving this process. She made very clear today, Raggy, that her main goal is to do it methodically and carefully, not rush to judgment. But among Democrats, there is certainly a generational divide. There are younger, more radical members of the party who are joyous, salivating at the prospect that they have finally cornered Donald Trump. But then there is the older generation, including Pelosi, of course, who witnessed the Watergate years and the Bill Clinton years, and who recognized that impeachment is an extreme act. It is kind of, a constitutional act of last resort, a national trauma potentially that can deeply divide a country, particularly when we are this close to a presidential election. And adding to the sort of febrile atmosphere here, adding to the anxiety, is the fact that there is enormous political jeopardy for both parties in this. Polling suggests that impeachment is not popular. So this is a tremendous risk for Democrats and for Republicans alike.
Robert in Washington, thank you.